Hello, welcome to season 5 of Own Your Divine Light show. I am your host, Yarra Atlantica Miller, also known as Janet Miller, and the theme of the show is the Divine Human Rising, recovering our sacred truth. This show is an exploration of the secret truths that have been concealed from us. We are letting go of this old system that no longer works and has held us back from becoming the divine humans we are meant to be today. We are having today, our guest is the incredible and dynamic Laura Van Tyne, who will be sharing her divine truth with us so that together we can achieve the divine human rising. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here today. Very excited about this. So thank you.
Yeah, Laura, I'm so happy to have you here because we've done some connections and some work together, and it's been just absolutely life-changing. So let me tell you about Laura. Laura Van Tyne is a remote viewer, an author, and a speaker. She is a master at navigating the energies of the unseen world to help you live life to the fullest potential. And Laura specializes in past life regression, MyLab abduction, implant removal, hypnosis, soul integration and retrieval, and spiritual self-defense, which I highly recommend that. Laura's book is also out and it's called Soul Tribe, Navigating the Spiritual War. So welcome, Laura, again. I'm just so thrilled that you're here today. And to me, Laura, you are one of the unsung heroes in this spiritual war that we find ourselves in. And if you, the listeners, don't think we are in a spiritual war, then maybe we'll give you some insights today on what maybe a little bit of that could be. But Laura, I think of you as the soul crusader. Your work is incredibly deep and perilous because I know it definitely takes a lot of courage to be doing what you're doing. And you have certainly grown into what I'm calling you the soul saver Jedi that this world has been waiting for. And I know you're not the only one, Laura, but you are making an incredible dent in what you're doing. And you've really just, created such a, you're known in both worlds, both sides of the world, both the dark and the light, know very well. So, and yet all your results in crossing souls over and removing entities is in high demand, and you have incredible results. So how do you feel right now about what you have accomplished and what you see next for yourself?
I never knew, I always knew I would be doing something later in life, but I started out as a middle school math and Spanish teacher. But when I was teaching, I always knew there was something else that was going to happen. And with that, basically one day, my then 6-year-old woke up extremely psychic and could see everything in all dimensions. And it was scary on a good day. I had to stop what I was doing. I had to stop teaching. I had to figure this out. And along the way, I would get so angry with God, Janet. I would get so angry. Why is he allowing my little girl to have to see these things and get picked on by these dark beings and entities? And this is 15 plus years ago. But I know now that that was my training ground for today.
Yep.
Karma doesn't waste energy. And in that process, I am very fortunate to get to do what I do. It's about our soul health. It's about our soul sovereignty. And it's about the spiritual war that most people for millennia, we've been oblivious to it, but we're being puppeted by the light and the dark. So if we can start understanding how the unseen world impacts us and what it does to us, we can start to take our power back.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is what you're doing. You're helping so many people take their power back. And that's why your work is incredibly important, especially now. I mean, as you said, you were prepped. I mean, you went through a lot. I mean, how many years did it take you to clear things through your family and make your house like
at least a decade.
I'm just letting people know that because you're not just
problem was
about, yes,
awful. I mean, it was horrible. My husband and I couldn't even go out to dinner by ourselves. We forget about having a weekend away from the kids, because if we were to have anybody watch our kids or something, it wouldn't be uncommon for a dish to fly off the shelf, or cabinets to open. Or one day we, the five of us went to an art exhibit. It was a Middle Eastern art exhibit. And we come home and we have this big 4 foot by 5 foot painting in our entryway. And we're all watching this finger poke mark come from behind the painting out. And it's an acrylic painting.
Wow.
And that poke mark went out 5 inches.
Wow.
And we watched it grow.
Okay.
What the heck? My husband, who, we're fans of the art world, okay? He took that painting down, ripped it up, and burned it on the spot, because it's like, well, we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
And there are many different types of dark beings and dark entities, which I'll be talking about, that affect us and impact us. And they were after me, but I didn't know why they were after me until one night they got a little too greedy. And that was when my then 6-year-old comes running down the hallway. And I've talked about this before.
Yep. But it's
jumps into bed and says, Mommy, the shadow men are in my room talking, and they said that they're going to steal my soul to break you. I didn't know why at the time they felt like I was a threat. I'm like, I'm an elementary school teacher, middle school teacher, what? But they can see potential futures.
Sure.
They were seeing a potential future with me that they were trying to stop.
Wow. Well, of course.
I can be tenacious like a bulldog. I might not look like it, but I am.
They got the mama bear going. My hairdresser was just telling me this story, and he said he has bears all around his house, right? He lives in like on the edge of the forest. It's it's a nice community, but it's a lot of bears in the woods. So one day he was driving and he saw a mama bear and going into the woods with her 2 baby bears, and he wanted to take a picture. So he beeped the horn and he opened down his window and he waved and was calling. Well, that mother bear was at his window like that, swiping at his car. And he said, I was scared to death. And that reminds me of you. This is just what happened to you. They were going at you, and you said, all right, I'm swiping back, honey. I'm coming at you. So what an anecdote to compare that to.
Gave up everything to fight them. I mean, there's nothing that would have stopped me at that point.
See, they lit the fire and they didn't even know it.
Oh, they got greedy. And our life was, for at least a good long decade, maybe a little bit more, it was like we were living in a Hollywood horror flick where the credits never ended. And it was exhausting on a good day.
Yeah. And, the perseverance and the resilience that you showed must have been so maddening for them, because they tried everything in their power to stop you.
They still do.
Got you more standing stronger. It was like you got more of a steel background going on your, backbone coming out when you would all these things.
Yeah. And the dark side offers a lot of opportunities. Doctors study viruses and bacteria, right? They don't just discover what study what healthy bodies look like. They discover what breaks them down. This is the same thing. So when I'm working with somebody, when I'm working with a client, we work together as a team so you can see what's happening too, because it makes it more real, more valid. And then, and when I work with somebody and I capture the bad guys, we have a little Q&A session every single time, because I want to know what they know.
Exactly.
I want to know how they work. And I'll separate them if it's reptilians, if it's grays, if it's black magicians, if it's an archon, it doesn't matter. When I'm able, and I say my spiritual team and I can capture them, and we do, because I don't leave anyone behind.
Oh, I know. I've been there. We've done work together where I've asked, for some help with situations, and then all kinds of things broke out.
Right. And that's unfortunately more common than not. But when you can remove them, it cleans up the planet. I mean, people are so focused on recycling and saving the planet. Dude, recycling isn't going to save the planet. Removing the dark entities, crossing over the dead, that will save the planet.
And that's so important, I think, for people to hear. Yeah. They need to know.
Absolutely.
This. So go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, no. And it's about our soul health and maintaining our soul sovereignty. If these dark beings and entities are constantly picking at us, they're eroding our soul health.
Yes.
And that's why we're having this conversation today, because this is a big deal.
It is. And, I understand that so well because I wasn't feeling myself so many times. And so before I met you, I had someone else I was working with. And so we were practicing dark arts removal and things like that. So I was a guinea pig for one of my friends who was taking the course. And when she said, I'm going to, remove something. And I don't know if I've shared this here before, but a giant metallic green spider jumped out of my chest. And I saw it with my eyes. I was like, whoa.
I know. Am I crazy? What's going on?
And that just freaked me out. I mean, who would imagine such a thing?
Well, let's talk about the spider for a minute before we roll into it. But I see spiders all the time when I'm clearing properties and people.
Okay.
The spiders, and they tend to have like the straw, like they're giant. They're not like a little
People are going to get freaked out about spiders because a lot of people don't like them.
Well, but I'm going to give a solution. So a
Oh,
lot of what I do, yes, we can talk about the problems, but what good is talking about a problem unless we have a solution, right?
Solution, absolutely.
I'm very solution based. Let's not keep repeating stuff. Let's have a solution with it. But
yes,
a lot of times people will see spiders crawling up walls like that. And usually they're black. They're shadowy a lot of times because it's at night when people see them. But when people are dealing with sleep paralysis, it can be a spider, and they have these straws and it goes up through the bed and it attaches to us and it sucks out our energy. Easy solution: frankincense oil. You can just make a bottle of it, put a carrier oil in it, put it on your feet, put it on your solar plexus, the center of the chest area, a green light at night, and it makes them go away. So those are, if you're dealing with sleep paralysis or even night terrors, if you have a child with night terrors, the doctors always say, oh, that's a normal part of childhood. No, it's not normal for your child to be terrorized.
That's so good to hear, because I was always terrorized as a child, always.
Yeah, it's not normal.
Good to know. See, parents,
green light at night, go to, your Home Depot, and they come in LEDs now where you can pick your color. Okay. Just put a green light on at night and it creates a barrier. It's a frequency issue. It creates a barrier that keeps them out of the space. The other is Mozart music.
Okay, the classics.
So if you look at, and in my what I'm talking about today, and I've got a PDF handout, I've got a link to Dr. Masaru Emoto, where he shows, because he's a scientist who studies the water crystals, right?
Yes.
That when you play Mozart music, the crystals become symmetrical and beautiful. So that Mozart music is high frequency because of this. Now, apply it to ourselves and our lives. If it can shift the shape of a water crystal, a large part of us are water. If we are having Mozart music playing in the background or whatever, it starts to shift us. It starts to raise our frequency in a very natural, subtle way that is so important. And on YouTube, you've got all of these claims that, oh, this is high frequency music and this and that. How do we know? I could make something, bless you. I could create some kind of music and make all kinds of claims, but how do we know? Discernment is key. And this is part of our soul health we're going to talk about. Discernment is key, because we just assume that whatever's told to us is the right thing to do. And let's just think about it for a moment. So anyway.
I sneeze, it always is like the truth. I sneeze on the truth. So what you're saying is the truth. I know that because I know you, but I mean, it's just incredible that, there's all kinds of frequencies on like YouTube and things now that they're always, do this, do that, do this, do that. And I haven't been guided to use any of it.
How do you know, right? And I don't know.
I mean, I'm not guided for it. Yeah.
I can do some muscle testing, but maybe the first 12 bars of whatever is being played on the YouTube high frequency music is good. And then after that, maybe it's not. I don't know. But
yes,
Masaru Emoto proved this. And I think he did some Beethoven and Bach as well.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So, and I'll have a link in the PDF for that too.
Oh, that would be great. That would help so many people. I mean, these are simple things. I mean, people don't always believe that it's important to create your safe environment, but you're saying it is, because I didn't know I had this thing in me, and once that was gone, I was
You
so
felt better,
free.
didn't you?
Oh my gosh, my brain fog was gone. It was
Your
like much better.
subconscious can relax now,
Yes, it was
right? Because you
crazy.
were always on I'm assuming you're on high alert, but you didn't know why.
I've always been on high alert my whole entire life. And I mean, even now I'm still a little on high alert. How can you
Mhm.
not be, because of where the world, things are going on? But even while working with you, you gave so many tools and that self-defense course that Laura is offering, when she offers it, I highly recommend it, because Laura's work is so down to earth and it's real. And as she's saying, you can use frankincense, a green light. I mean, not everybody tells you these things, and Laura tells you real solutions, as she said, and it's absolutely true.
Janet, I have spent tens of thousands, more than that, of dollars trying to solve my problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want people to have to go through what I went through. So my goal is to give people what's tried and true and what works,
Mm-hmm.
so they can take whatever they're going through and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So if we're all starting at the same low baseline, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
But if I came from a low baseline and I've elevated myself and I can share this, and then you take it and you run with it and you take it to the next level, that's the kind of matrix we want to create.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know this passion for the soul health is because of everything you went through with your family. And then you saw, it shifted your life in many ways, but you're on your true path, right? You're on your true path now. Do you feel that? Yeah.
Absolutely. I have never been more firm on this. This is what I'm supposed to do, without a doubt.
Right. So tell us more about what soul health means, like when you're talking about that.
All right. So we talk about our health all the time. We talk about our financial health, our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, but we need to start addressing the soul health. Our soul health is our soul is us. It's the energy that animates this body. This body, we don't take it with us when we leave it, right? So that's our soul. That's the soul energy. And the soul energy, it animates our physical body. The healthier our soul is, the stronger we are, and it's the center of whom we are. So if we have a strong and healthy soul, our financial fitness, our mental health, all of those aspects start to fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
We are our soul, and our soul is us. And these are not normal times. We need to change how we start conducting our spiritual business. We can no longer afford to say, oh, sit on the sidelines and wait for something to happen before we make a decision, because if we do that, the decision will be made for us.
Mm-hmm. As we've seen, lots of decisions
Absolutely.
try to be made for us, and a lot of us don't agree. And people are waking up to all these different things that have been put out.
Yeah, and our souls are multidimensional. They connect to every aspect of our being. When we die, it's the only aspect we take with us. And our souls are derived from God's source energy. And this is key right here. God's source energy, I'll talk about this a little bit later on here, but when the Luciferic forces fell from the light of God, they needed a source of energy. I'm just going to leave you on that little cliffhanger there.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
All right. And we'll get back to that in a few minutes. But when we talk about our soul, there's internal factors and external factors that affect our soul. Mm-hmm. Childhood belief structures and family patterns play a big part in our soul health. How many of us have been programmed to not trust our intuition as children? Or how many of us were beaten and abused as children? Those are the internal factors that that affect our soul, whether our family unit, our family structure. And another important aspect that really affects our soul is the concept and emotions of guilt, blame, and shame. These are programmed beliefs. When we are dealing with guilt, blame, and shame, they lower our vibration, they lower our frequency. When you walk, I'm going to pick on the Catholic Church because I like to do that a lot.
It's okay by me because I was Catholic my whole life. And then once I opened up,
And churches have, the communities of a church are different than the institution of the church. And so for people who may belong to a church or something, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we have to think for ourselves too. Don't just assume the preacher or priest knows everything.
Isn't truly God, really. God is in us. So
absolutely, yes. And so with guilt, shame, and blame, you walk into a Catholic church, you see the tortured Christ hanging on a cross. That invokes guilt, shame, and blame. That makes me feel not worthy. Instead, we can replace it with an experience. I did something, I'm not proud of it. It was an experience. And the same goes with the concept of sin.
mm-hmm.
How many churches out there are telling people they are sinners? We're not sinners. We are not born perfect, right?
Yep.
We have the ability to say, you know what? I made a poor choice, but now I know better.
Where's the unconditional love that we're told is what,
right.
that is all about? That's supposed to be led by unconditional love. And you don't feel that. It's always conditional. Well, if
it's conditional, and then you get I see this a lot. I work a lot with people who have religious PTSD,
sure.
Among other things. But my mom told me that we belong to this church and I'm saved, but yet I'm a sinner. What does that mean? It creates an imbalance, right?
It's so confusing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we have to replace the word sin with an experience. I had an experience. And if you did something that really hurt somebody, it's an opportunity to atone and to learn. I had a friend of mine whose daughter was the cause of a really bad car accident that killed a person and maimed a friend. And they were 16, horsing around. Yeah. And talk about the guilt, right? And she's a good kid. They weren't even drinking or doing drugs or anything like that. But in the process, and this is over many years, what she ended up realizing was that she wanted to become a physical therapist to help people who were injured in car accidents. Mm-hmm. That's her form of atonement. So in the divine plan, before those girls were born, did they have an agreement? I don't know. As horrible as that was, it pushed this one young girl to have a completely different life, to be of service to others. Would that have happened without the car accident? Probably not. Do those parents want their daughter back who died? Of course. So, but we have to look for what is the greater good? What is the outcome? What is the silver lining? And when we can start to think that way, we create a healthier soul. And we also look at options and opportunities in a whole new light. Because spiritual ascension is never a straight shot up. It ebbs and flows, goes up and down, and it's based on our experiences and our reactions to the experiences around us. Mm-hmm. And anybody out there who says that, oh, I'm ascended and I'm in 5D, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to punch you in the face and you're going to go back up. All right.
That's a scream.
So, and I call that spiritual bypassing and spiritual narcissism, okay?
And that makes sense. I know a lot of people are really working hard to get us there, so I can't say everybody is incorrect, because I feel different.
No, but it ebbs and flows, right?
Yes.
We're still in human bodies.
Out of it. Yes, we can shift out of it. We're getting glimpses of it. We keep stepping into it and then backing out of it, because we're learning, as you say, we're having these experiences to let us choose. What is it you want? Which one do you want? That's partly how I look at it.
And every experience gives us an opportunity for growth, right? It just does. And so, there's a lot of people that are always running around out there saying, oh, I'm in 5D, I'm in 5D. And, nothing matters, and it becomes like I'm better than you, right? When we hear this, it's the same thing as
like that, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm a good Christian. Well, if you have to label yourself as a good Christian, are you?
Right. Then you're really questioning it yourself. You really are questioning it. That's what
and I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm not your typical Christian though, right? I'm a believer in many.
I think we're spiritual people working to bring that unconditional love forward. Sure. And letting it guide us more than not.
And I believe, in the power of Christ and the power of many other ascended masters.
There's
right?
Many ascended masters, which we're learning more and more, because we've been kind of deceived and tricked with all these crazy stories that we brought up with, which were all for, an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So this is part of the agenda, which is part of this spiritual war that we're in. And I don't want to go down the rabbit holes on those, but I'm just saying, when you look at what you're doing, I mean, you're going down unbelievable holes, rabbit holes, and cosmic holes. I mean, dimension.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And I was just listening to something today about these people are going to parks, and then they take a walk, and they don't come back. They step through a portal. And so they couldn't find this man, and they couldn't find him, and his family were looking for him, and they go out to the park, and they were in this one area, and they could hear someone yelling, "Help me, help me," but there was nobody there. And then another person went out to that same area, and she heard, "Help me, help me," and ran back and told them, but they couldn't find anything.
So it could be
20 years later, he showed up in the area, but he wasn't alive anymore.
Yeah. It could have been also an abduction, because they'll use portals like that. And I'm going to do a little sidestep here too. I was in Sedona not too long ago, and I'm talking to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to go to the Cathedral Rock, and we're going to open up portals." I'm like,
"Oh, no.
Okay, first of all, because they want to help the light side. Okay, newsflash. The light side can have access to us because we are of the light. Mm-hmm. So when you open up a portal, you're just opening up a doorway for the riffraff. I mean, and that was a person's ego taking control of them. They can do this, so they think they have the right to. No. So we need to think about it. Again, that was a form of, in my opinion, spiritual narcissism.
That's an interesting word. I like that word.
Thank you. I started thinking about it a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of spiritual narcissists out there.
It's perfect, because I mean, this is a time to be very responsible, because the veils are thinning. And so just because you have the ability doesn't mean that it's okay for you to do it. Oh, well, I got the ability, so that means I need to do it. But no, it doesn't.
Where do the abilities come from? And we're going to talk about this towards the end, because our abilities, where do they come from? Who has gifted us to them? I don't call them gifts ever, because let me tell you what, 10 years ago, I would have returned them or thrown them away.
I understand that.
Or regifted them.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And, we're in this part where when we talk about frequency and stuff, we're not created equal. We are created in karma. We are created for the experiences our soul needs on our soul path. So when we see this equality, Black Lives Matters and all this stuff going out there, that's an erosion of the soul.
That's a separation factor. I'm sorry.
It really is. And it's eroding the soul. We're created in karma. And the reality is that we've all come back many lifetimes to this planet, and we've come in all different color, shades of skin and this and that, and different locations for the experiences we need. So to say that we're, everything needs to be equal, that would mean we'd need to be robots. Okay. And that's kind of what the
grades are very boring. Would be bored, believe me.
And
somebody
we have to
break out and do something else. Yep.
Respect what we are here for. And when we talk about all this equality stuff, no. Do I want my surgeon to make the same amount of money as somebody working at Starbucks? Not so much. Okay. And I love it. It's a different field of study, right?
Yes. And also
a barista or some, or this, and we've all had different level jobs and this and that, and myself included. But we have to understand that we're not equal, but we're made in karma. We're here for our soul experiences. And
so when you say we're made in karma, can you go a little deeper in that? Because that's a very interesting phrase.
We're here to do a lot of different things, but many of us have soul purposes, many soul purposes. Maybe your soul purpose is to survive childhood. Maybe your soul purpose is to learn how to be nicer to animals.
Mhm.
Some people have soul missions, right? They're on a different trajectory, and people with soul missions have soul purposes, because someone with a soul mission still has to deal with the humanity of being in a physical body.
Yes, yes. As
And
you
it's
are
not
doing.
it's not better or worse, it just is.
Mm.
And so we're here for these experiences. We come and play different roles all the time. You know, maybe I was your mom in a previous lifetime, or you were my friend, or we don't know. And that's fine. We're all interconnected. We have to understand that. And if we can be here and be here for each other
Mhm.
without all this contention and actually lack of compassion. And that's what the dark side is trying to do. They're trying to divide us. And I'll talk about that a little bit down here too, because the other part of spiritual narcissism, and I get this all the time, I'll make a post or something and somebody will say, oh, just raise your frequency. Isn't that kind of a slap in the face? It's, just raise your frequency. It's not that easy.
Well,
We
first
all
of all,
come in.
people have to know how to do it. And second of all, it's not that simple.
And
When
they have to
you're-
understand what that means.
You can't
And
do it willy-nilly. You have to really know what you're doing.
we have, yeah. And
commitment.
we all come in with different frequencies,
Mhm.
different abilities. You know, we see this 3-year-old child pianist who can play better than Mozart. And how did the 3-year-old do that? Well, that 3-year-old, his sole mission has been to learn the piano over and over and over. Right? That's how he starts in. He starts at this level. So frequency is the same thing. Everything has a vibration, everything has a frequency, and it's turned into this big buzzword now. And like I said, I feel like a lot of people attach it to their form of spiritual narcissism. But when we raise our frequency, all we're doing is trying to create a wholeness within ourselves.
Mm.
When we raise our frequency, we're able to, when we get hit, we don't fall as hard. So let's say we're born, and by the way, we are born in karmas, back to that little comment,
Yep.
based on our previous lifetimes. Maybe in this lifetime, I needed an easier life. And so I was born into a family that was stable financially and mentally and emotionally. But I've taken my station, and I'm not taking it for granted by drinking and partying based on my family's money. Maybe I'm taking it to do something else. Like, oh gosh, Boyan Slat, I think he's the Dutch inventor. When he was a teenager, he was swimming in the Greek Isles and he saw all the trash. Well, that experience changed his life. He created this mechanism to clean the plastics out of the ocean. He was born at a certain station. If he had been born at abject poverty in India, he would not have had the experience of going to the Greek Isles and seeing the trash.
Interesting.
So we have
look
to
at it. Yeah.
take our station. If I'm born in abject poverty, maybe I needed that experience so that I can take that knowledge of what it's like to suffer into my next lifetime, so that I can create some type of food product or something to help people who are starving. We don't know.
Yes.
But we all have the free will, in theory, to do better. And our minds are our most powerful asset in all of this. And I really want to hone in on this. Our minds are our most powerful asset because
the mind is, versus the heart.
Because with our mind, we can create.
Okay.
With our mind, we can shift energy.
Okay.
So think of the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, and I will give you the PDF of this, and it has a link on it. Dr. Masaru Emoto, E-M-O-T-O. He realized that he could change the shapes of water crystals with the power of thought. And they studied this.
Also, it was feeling, I thought it was feeling.
It's emotion, but it's feeling, but it's the mind.
Okay.
Because the mind leads the heart, but the heart leads the mind, right? We're circular, but it's really the mind.
Okay. Well, he thought about it, but then he had to go into his heart to emote the feeling.
He had to think about it first. And so
True.
let's look
That's
at the mind belt. There's a concept of the mind belt around the earth.
Okay.
And the mind belt is that the energetic stuff that's going on. And right now it's based in fears. Fear is ruling this planet.
So true.
And we have to get past that. And that's a heart thing.
Okay.
We have to use our mind to circumvent the heart in that manner. It doesn't mean to deny ourselves of the emotion.
Yeah.
But fear, when fears hit the ears, the truth goes away. The truth cannot be heard.
Oh, that's a good statement. You should make that one of your.
I came up with that 2 days ago, actually. When the fears hit the ears, the truth cannot be heard.
That is so powerful.
And fear is a really important element when it comes to our soul health.
Mm-hmm.
I learned years ago in my darkest days when I'm trying to figure this out, and I've got the Hatman in one corner and I've got this reptilian in another room and I've got all this other stuff going on, that
it's like a sci-fi movie.
It was awful. Oh, believe me.
This is real. This is the real.
It's very real. The truth is not stranger than fiction, let me tell you.
I think everything that we see is actually from truth, because I don't think we could make it up.
I don't think so either. And every day I had to, it was so bad that I had to convince myself that 2 hours of consecutive sleep a night was a full night's sleep. That went on for a decade. I couldn't sleep because if I slept, what were they going to do to my little girl? And every day I had to push past that paralyzing fear. I wasn't going to let fear overtake my decisions. And we're all in this position now where these fears are growing and growing and growing. Yes. Now, fear in small doses can keep us safe. Oh, don't turn left or whatever that is. Fear in small doses, it gets our spidey senses going. It's a safety mechanism, but fear in large doses is paralyzing. The dark side needs us to be paralyzed. And I'll explain why in a little bit. And just know that there's all kinds of things that we can do to raise our frequency. And one is to remove the mindset of fear as best as you can. It's a struggle for a lot of people. I know that. High frequency music, essential oils, removing and reducing the clutter in your home is paramount. Because when we start letting the fears overtake us, we become paralyzed. Our house becomes cluttered. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Let's think about that for a minute.
I remember that sentence. Yes, very well.
So when we have a lot of clutter in our lives, the energy is stagnant. And stagnant energy lowers the frequency around us. If you have look at your home, and if there's something in your home, when you look at it and it does not bring you joy, you don't need it. Get rid of it.
Okay, I need some time off to do that.
Absolutely. I give you permission to do that, not that permission.
I know, it's important. I know it really is important. I do understand that. Yeah.
And this includes family heirlooms, okay? We inherit so much crap, right?
And then the youth, my children, they don't want much of anything,
They don't.
Very, very little.
Yeah, they don't. And so what doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. If it's broken or damaged, throw it away. If it is in a condition where you could take it to a Goodwill or some other place,
yes,
it has the potential to bring someone else joy.
That's true.
Versus you looking at it thinking, God, I don't want to dust this thing again. Right?
It's true. I've been doing that. I mean, in bits and pieces again, and I can see like a major overhaul. And it's so true. That's so important to even understand that causes the stagnation in your house. And
in the world of feng shui, when we get rid of something, it opens the door to receive something. So it's all about energy.
Yeah,
all about energy. So those are just some basic tips to increase frequency, to kind of rid your mind. When you rid your home of the clutter, you rid your mind of the clutter.
Yes.
because you're always thinking, oh, I got to go through that stack of mail and I got to do this and that, it's just, and it's exhausting, and it creates a form of brain fog as well.
Wow.
And so just think about that when it comes to frequency. Frequency isn't this magical thing. It's just, it's basic math. What brings you joy? What can you do to shore up your frequency of you and your home? Your home is an extension of you. Your workspace is an extension of you. Your car is an extension of you. Keep your car clean.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you keep your car clean, your car is going to have less engine problems and less electrical problems, because the energy can flow through the car. It sounds crazy, but it really is true.
Oh, no, I think that's very true. I do. And, I keep thinking about how we've been made to become such a materialistic society. And so we have so much stuff. We're a stuff society. And it's almost purposely done as part of this spiritual war, which makes it look like, oh, well, you're doing well in the world because we have so much stuff. But yet the other side of that is we can create brain fog and slow them down, and they won't move into their ascension energy, and they won't become the divine human rising that they're meant to be.
Yeah. And how many parents, new parents, especially even older parents, where you have this baby and now your child has more assets than you? Seriously. Right? I mean, they don't need all this stuff.
Talk about toys. Ooh.
What did the kids do 50 years ago? And it's kind of funny, but for years, and for Christmases and birthdays, our kids would get like a ream of paper and a giant cardboard box. I mean, and they loved it. Wow. Absolutely loved it. It was like, forget about all the shiny, sparkly toys, because the grandparents and stuff would get them that stuff. So we'd just get them this random art stuff to create and be creative. And we literally had an entire coat closet that we converted into an art closet, because they could come out and do stuff. But it's a frequency issue, because when you're creating, you're happy. Yes. Creativity is God-centered energy. It's free will energy. So our creativity is extremely important, and sitting there on a screen on your hand all day long is not creative energy. If you go to the Karmic Path on Instagram, or even on Facebook, I just did a post recently about AI and electronics. It's programming our kids.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's taking away their free will. So it's a slippery slope. So we have to be careful of that. But
I mean, when my 3-year-old grandson can run the remote better than me, I'm like, oh my God, how does he know?
I know, right?
I know, I'm like, whoa, that's really scary.
Yeah. And so I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about what these unseen energies look like, who they are, and what they do, and why they're even here. And I call it Who's Who in the Spiritual Zoo. Because there's beings in all dimensions. And to understand how they affect us, we need to have a basic understanding of these dimensions and what beings reside in which dimension.
Hold on one sec. I had a thought, and I want to make you laugh a little here, because the Cat in the Hat books, it's like you can make a book called Who's Who in the Spiritual Zoo. You could do it like related to a Cat in the Hat book.
Oh, you know what? I already have my Dr. Seuss book written.
Oh, good, because
it's on ghosts. It's on ghosts.
I see green eggs and ham, and I'm going, Who's Who in the Spiritual Zoo?
Right. Yeah, that's right. So this one is I forget the name of the book offhand, but in those dark days, I mean, my little girl was seeing everything, right?
Sure.
In fact, she learned out the truth about Santa Claus from a ghost.
Oh, no.
I know, right? It's like, what a jerk. If you're a jerk in life, you're going to be a jerk in death, okay? So
that's incredible.
So the book was, there's fat ones and tall ones and hairy ones and scary ones and brown ones and small. Yeah, it just. Small ones.
I think as we evolve, that would be something that is really like part of spiritual health.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And every dimension, guys, has politics associated with it. And we think when we die, we're going to be done with politics. Think again. They all have politics.
Oh, no, it's hard to digest that thought.
It's awful. There's politics in every dimension. I know there's no reprieve from politics, unfortunately.
Oh, no, it's
So,
like, where's the meat? Remember the commercial, where's the meat?
right,
Now it's,
right.
Where's the peace? Where's the peace?
And politics can be peaceful.
Yes.
They
But we
can be,
haven't
but
seen
right
it.
now,
When have we seen that? Only.
well, I'm talking in the higher realms.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's a hierarchy that will happen that
Okay.
everything works. But in this, so right now, and I put these in 3 buckets. There's more than 3 dimensions, but for the purpose of what we're talking about today, we're just going to put them in 3 buckets.
Sure.
There's the 3rd dimension. The 3rd dimension is the physicality, the physical space we're living in. It requires time, it requires space, and it requires gravity. We need the time and the space to have the experiences, and we need the gravity to ground us in the 3rd dimension. We can see, touch, hear, taste, and smell in this dimension. We can see the animals, I can see you, I can, work on my computer. That's the 3rd dimension. But there's overlays within the 3rd dimension where other dimensions can bump into us. And this is the unseen world. The 4th dimension has an original purpose to it. And it's also what it has become. They're 2 different things. And in this, we're going to talk about what we can do about it.
What was the original purpose of the 4th?
The original purpose of the 4th dimension, when we die and we leave these physical bodies, life here is rough. We use the 4th dimension as a step up transformer to go home, raise our frequency to go home to the heavens.
Okay.
Higher realms, whatever you want to call it. That's the original intention. However, I call them Luciferic forces because it's just an easy bucket. It's the reptilians, it's the grays, it's the fallen angels, it's all of those beings. When they left the light of God, they left the energy source they needed to sustain themselves. And they're like, oh, snap, we got a problem, right? Hey, there's those humans and even animals on this planet that are of God, of the light. What if we cast a net over that 4th dimension, and when they go to ascend, they get caught in our net and we can use their energy? This is the problem.
That's the hijacking.
It's the hijacking. It's the soul napping. As above, so below, right? The concept of homeopathy. If we can be kidnapped in the physical form, our souls can too be kidnapped. I'm not saying this to be scary. I'm saying this because knowledge is power, and once you know, you know.
Absolutely.
So when we leave the bodies here, we go to the 4th dimension to raise our frequency to go to the 5th dimension and higher. That 23rd Psalm, lo, behold, I shall walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Why am I fearing evil if there's no evil? There's evil, people. So we need to make sure that when we die, we immediately cross over. Knowledge is power. Now that you know this, you know this.
So we don't want to go through the 4th at all. Is that what you're saying?
We want to just go right past it. We want to just go quickly, 3, 4, 5. So we're supposed to use the 4th dimension as a step up transformer. The dark side is using the 4th dimension as a step down transformer. And this is the problem. We have been programmed to believe many things about dead people. They deserve to rot in hell, right?
It's a sad thought, but I've heard it before. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, oh God, I hope they rot in hell, or I can't wait for them to die so that, they can rot in hell for whatever,
I'm like, oh, it hurts to hear that now, because I know we all used to say crazy things, and now it's like, it hurts my soul to hear that. It does.
But we've been programmed to believe these things. So who programmed these thoughts in our heads, right? Surely God didn't. He has unfinished business. Okay. A dad died. Actually, a friend of mine's husband died and left 3 little girls, the same age as our little girls at the time. And he was residing in their house as a ghost. The family knew it. Well, he wasn't ready to go, was the justification.
Oh,
no. When we leave our physical bodies, our karmic time here is done, and we need to go home, period. No ifs, ands, or buts.
I had that happen with you. I had my lights coming on in my cabinet downstairs for the past year. I kept going, who's turning those lights on? And then I knew it was not me. Nobody goes near that and turns it on. and I realized I had visitors. So we did a clearing, and that light has not come back on.
Yeah, we just crossed them
Looking
over.
at it, and as they were leaving, they said to me, "You're gonna miss us."
They can have contact with us from the higher realms, from the heavens. In our sleep state, there's a few spiritual laws about that. But they're not going to come back and have dinner with us, right?
Because it's not healthy, even though people think, "Oh, I like ghosts." I remember a woman I was going to as a hairdresser. She said, "Oh, I have a ghost in my house." I'm like, "You do?" She's like, "Yeah." And, "Oh, I have no problem with it. I enjoy the ghost."
Okay, that's another program belief. I have no problem with that.
See?
The problem is that we're not allowing that ghost soul to ascend.
There you go.
We're karmically responsible for that ghost to a certain degree,
Mhm.
because that ghost needs to cross over to go home. If that ghost was your mother, your brother, whomever, you would want the best for them in life and death. You want them to cross over. And this is especially true for children who die. When a child dies, it's not the natural order of things, but we need to cross them over. The
Absolutely.
parents' attachments, the relatives and families' attachments can be so strong that a ghost child doesn't cross over. There's two main reasons why a ghost child doesn't cross over, and I've crossed over thousands of them. Is the attachments that the living have to the child. It's not the natural order of things. And also the child doesn't know what to do upon death because he's waiting for an adult in charge.
Sure.
And there's no adult in charge. You're supposed to go to the light, but the light thing can be kind of iffy. That's a whole nother concept, but you need to go to the light. You need to go home to the heavens. You need to go back to God. And in this, you can either email me at laura@thekarmicpath.com, or I think that there's the PDF of a crossing over prayer and a dark entity removal prayer.
I just got mine, and it's beautiful. I mean, I've been using the one that you gave me before, but I got your new little bit of a new. Is it a new?
Yeah, it's a little bit newer version.
Yes,
and
I
use those prayers. I'm telling people, make 1,000,000 copies. I don't care. Make them big, make them small. Pass them out to friends and family.
Mhm. I got them all over the house now. I'm looking for
It
the one.
doesn't matter. I
said
it's
it
about
last
the
night.
spiritual service.
I said it
Yeah.
last night because I could hear this tapping in my room. And I'm like, "What's tapping? It doesn't feel like it's something I want tapping in my house." So I crossed it over, and it stopped.
And it worked.
Yes.
And it's a great prayer. I'm grateful for my team for helping to construct that, because we want to cross them over. The dark entities rely on ghost energy. So there's many psychics out there who will say, "Oh, Janet, your mom is standing next to you and she says she loves you and she's happy." She's a ghost.
Right.
And how do we know it's really your mom or not a shapeshifter?
Yes. See, that's another thing people never would be aware of until someone like you explains it.
Yeah. And, I'll do another little side story here, but I had and if I've mentioned the story before, let
We
me know.
love
But
stories, Laura. Nobody can ever
Okay.
get enough stories.
I had a mom, a daughter, and a granddaughter that lived close to me, and the grandma dies. They all lived in the same house. The grandma dies. The daughter's like 14. And the mom calls me up, says, "Laura, my mom died." We cross her over. And about 2 weeks later, the mom's like, "Hey, Laura, I thought we crossed over my mom because my daughter is saying that she's talking to her grandma all the time." They were very close, by the way. I'm like, "Really?" I said, "You mind if I stop on by?" And so I go over, and the daughter and the mom are there, and they're both very psychic, very in tune. And I asked the daughter, I'm like, "I'm very curious, how is it that you're communicating with your grandma?" And she's like, "Oh, well, my friend and I, we made a Ouija board out of a piece of paper."
Oh, no.
And, and we summoned my grandma to come, and she comes and she's talking to me, and she's, the grandma's telling her all these things she wants to hear. And I said, "Oh, that's absolutely fascinating." I said, and I have the ability to create containment fields for these entities. So I know this isn't grandma, but I'm not going to say it's not grandma. And I said, "That's amazing." I said, "I would love to meet your grandma. Could you have her come into the living room in this spot right here?" Because I created this containment field. Grandma comes in, And I'm asking grandma some questions. She's like, oh, my granddaughter is so beautiful and so lovely and this and that. And interesting. I tell the mom and the granddaughter, I said, let's make sure this is really your grandma, okay? And so I said, I'm going to do something. And everybody here, the power of the mind, has the ability to do this. I'm going to visualize myself pouring salt all over grandma. And the minute I did this, grandma turned into a reptilian.
Oh boy.
And they both shrieked. They were quite surprised because the facade was so good. They can read our minds and desires. They know what we want and they can create what we think we want. But had we not have thwarted that reptilian, more would have come. Nothing is free. The energy, the conversations and the guidance she was getting from this reptilian is not free. It comes at a price. Usually health and wealth are the first two things that go. Has anybody ever seen a really wealthy tarot card reader? No. Rarely do they exist.
Right.
The full-time tarot readers don't exist because they don't get the energy for free.
Oh.
There's a price to be paid with health or wealth. There are tarot readers out there who have really studied and do due diligence, but the average one will have health and wealth problems. And I'm not saying that to burst people's bubble, but we got to be smarter about this. If you have to flip a card to get an answer from God, how do you know you're getting an answer from God? And it's different than the cards that we look at that are statement based. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So anyways,
tarot, didn't you say once a tarot opens portals?
It can open a portal because you're allowing an energy source to come in. But how do you, if you have to flip a card to have this connection, how do you know what you're connecting to truly? We have to build our spiritual discernment. We have to build our own connection to God. Yeah, that's key. That's called spiritual bypassing, by the way. So ghosts, every ghost needs to cross over. A ghost is simply a soul stuck between heaven and earth. Cross them over. In this fourth dimension also, there's beings called the Hat Man. And this is a watcher being. He wears kind of a fedora hat. And he reports what he's observing back to his bosses so that they can figure out what they're going to do next. There's lower realm entities. And these guys are the long wispy things that we might see out of the corner of our eye. Okay. They're the harasser beings. Their job is to harass us and take our energy. They extract our energy, kind of like that spider, and they give it to their bosses. They're always left a little hungry. Okay. These guys are like the pawns on the chessboard. Their job is simply to create havoc in our lives, to create arguments in our lives. And you're like, why was I so angry about whatever? That made no sense. There's something else going on.
So let me tell you a quick story. I have a little anecdote. One of the women, I had injured my ankle and she was a PT therapist assistant. And she opened up to me. I don't know why, because I work in the spiritual realm. She opened up to me and said, well, I get lots of visitations. I said, like what? She goes, well, I have this man who's in the corner with a dark hat. I went, well, he's a black hat. I said, you don't want him there, do you? And she's like, oh, I don't mind. He's always there. I'm like, what is this with people who don't? This is like the ghost. I don't mind.
Yeah, it's complacency. And we've been programmed to believe these certain things, right? It's just a complacency issue. We have to start. Soul health is hard work.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And and she was very young. And I said, well, that isn't really a healthy thing to have around you. You know, they're not there as your friend. And she said, yeah, well, he doesn't do anything. He just watches. And I'm like, oh my. Oh,
that's called a stalker in the living world, right?
Okay, there you go. All right. When I see her again, I'm gonna tell her, you know, you still have that stalker going on in your life because, you know, we're told these things for a reason. It's almost like we're meant to tell them and open up the world to, you know that this isn't always safe, what's going on.
And our soul health is so important. It's hard work to keep a healthy soul. Isn't your soul worth it?
Absolutely. I
Right?
know this whole last 3 years has been all about soul health.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then a lot of times, especially in the sphere-based economy, so to speak, thought forms are becoming more and more prevalent. Thoughts are things. Again, the mind is so powerful. Teenagers are really, really good at creating thought forms. Thoughts are things, they carry energy. So an easy way to figure out if a thought is yours or not is to visualize yourself pouring salt on you or on that thought, or run cold water on your wrists. Because it literally breaks the chain. Or taking orange essential oil and just inhaling it will shift things. These are all really good tools to get you back on track to where it's as good for brain fog too, all of those elements.
Tell you, I know I use the salt all the time because you always see it in movies. They put the salt around the windows and they make the salt circle. So it's
and that stuff doesn't do as much as what the mind can do.
Okay.
I mean, I believe me, I've tried everything. I've anointed every window with anything I was told. I mean, if you would have told me to go to the beach and cover myself in molasses and jump in the ocean, I would have, because I was so desperate.
Oh yeah, of course. We try it all.
And what I'm telling people, it does work. And salt is very powerful. It cleanses, right? It's a cleanser. We used to cure our meat in salt so it wouldn't go bad. We clean wounds with salt, saline solution.
Simple too. It's the simplest tool, and it's so effortlessly, you have a result immediately.
Yeah, and we can just do it right now for a moment, and we can just,
everybody sitting and listening.
If you've got something around you can just visualize yourself pouring salt, a rain of salt throughout the room that you're in, throughout your home. It just cleans and clears. You can project, again, the mind is powerful. Project your consciousness to your car and visualize your car having salt poured on it. It's a spiritual practice. It's harder for some than others in the beginning. If it's hard for you and all you're seeing is black, that's okay. Be kind to yourself and just keep working on visualizing yourself pouring salt on your car or on yourself. Even if you can't see it and you're seeing black, it still works.
Just because you make the intention, it'll work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah. We have fallen angels. These are the ones that left the light of God, like Lucifer. There's reptilians, and these are the beings actually that started World War II.
The fallen angels started World War II.
No, the reptilians started World War II. Fallen angels are the ones that left the angels that left the light of God. The reptilians, these guys have been around for a long time, and you see them in depictions of art. They're usually like beings with horns and scales. That's a form of a reptilian. There's many different species within the reptilian group. I deal with them almost every day. They started World War II because it was interesting. I was at this event. I was speaking at an event, and I just happened to come in to the room, and this guy was a channeler. By the way, the light side doesn't need to use your body to channel messages. They don't. It's a violation of spiritual law for a light being to come into my body and start channeling messages to you. A light being can come to me and say, Laura, you need to say blah, 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 but they're not inside my body.
Okay.
There's a difference there.
Yeah. I know
we're giving up our soul health, our autonomy when we allow something in our body. And this guy is talking, he's talking and he's saying, he starts channeling this reptilian, and literally I can see his skin change, his demeanor change. And I'm like, whoa, this is so not cool. And there's a whole group of people in there. And he starts talking about the value of World War II and how the reptilians started it to help humanity advance. And I'm like ready to go, hello.
He said that? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is this a spiritual conference?
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. So when you're at a spiritual conference, we have to use discernment a lot. Okay.
Oh my God. Yes.
And so I'm like pressing to ask a question. All of a sudden, I feel these tentacles wrap around my feet and the chair. And I'm like, I'm out of here.
Wow.
So I'm going to tell you right now that the horrors that World War II inflicted upon humanity, I don't think were necessary. And it was the reptilians taking control. This is a spiritual war.
Yes.
World War II was a spiritual war. The reptilians have brought communism to our planet. That's the communist society. The Greys are another species that live in this fourth dimension also. They experiment on humans. When we talk about abductions, usually we have in mind the Greys.
Mhm.
These guys also created capitalism.
The
They have
Greys
the Greys did, yes. They have a triad model where they take the consciousness, mind, body, and soul. The body of a Grey is artificial. The consciousness is not, it's more of an AI.
It's a hive mind, isn't it?
It is, because what can happen is they use the debit and credit system. The more credits they have, the more money they have.
Oh my goodness. I never
They
heard
can, yeah, they can create clones.
Oh
So
no.
let's say I'm a central Grey right here, and I've been able to buy 5 or 6 clones so I can separate my consciousness over here and over here and over here. This is what they do. And this is, you know, false contracts and contracts of omission are their mastery. Okay. We need to figure out what the clues are in our contract. Does it make sense? Is it false? Is it a contract of omission? And when I work with somebody who's got a Grey infestation or a reptilian or any other infestation, we look for the soul contracts. And we do it together so that way you know it's real too. So the Greys have implanted many of these thoughts within humanity. And people are having to decide now what is real, what is not real. They don't have an interest in life on this planet. They don't care for us either. But if an individual can keep their free will, this is important, they can't hijack your soul. But once you sell your soul to a Grey, it's really hard to unwind it.
Wow.
Keep your
How do you know
integrity.
you sell your soul? What? Give me an example.
Bill Gates would be a great example of this.
And people
Okay,
think
now
that
he's an
this
example.
guy, the one
Example on
who-
steroids, right?
I think so, but a lot of people think he's number one. I've had relatives go, "Oh, not Bill. He's a good guy." I'm like, "Not Bill."
Yeah.
I'm like,
But
you don't know these things.
how does a person go from middle-class America to the world's leading authority on health without a medical degree?
He knew that it was a monetary, it was a great way to make money.
Absolutely. He sold pieces of his soul for that.
Exactly.
We sell pieces of our soul when we screw somebody over intentionally, right?
No, that's so sad.
We sell pieces of our soul. So when we're working and operating in integrity, we're keeping our soul intact. It doesn't mean we don't slip, right? Nobody lives a perfect
No,
life.
none of us are perfect here. Yes.
And the Greys are kind of like a computer virus. You said hive mind. They're kind of like a computer virus.
Oh, I love that.
And you got to get rid of the virus, right?
Yes. Oh my.
Yeah.
I mean, these are concrete examples of what we're living with. I mean, people might go, "Oh, that's ridiculous. This is outrageous," but it's not outrageous when we look where we're at right now.
Right. And how did we get here? And if the Greys didn't exist, why are there depictions of them all over the place, right?
They're everywhere. I know. I was
And this-
listening to this one person on YouTube in the very beginning, like early 2020, and she said, "Oh, well, I know, I love Greys. I love Greys." And she was talking about, and then she talked about one group that I learned later was like the worst group you could connect with. And she was taken over by Greys, I swear.
Well, you know, and I worked with somebody a while back who is an international speaker. And this person is connected to the Greys, and the Greys are giving her this person all kinds of fantastical information that is true. But it's coming at a cost, because when she doesn't comply, they punish her.
Wow.
And so my comment to this person is what value is the energy or the information you're getting? Right?
It's like dealing with a drug dealer. You have no money, so they give you credit and then they want it back and you don't have it,
Right.
and you're in trouble. And
Yeah,
they have what they
you're
need.
right. Great analogy. Again, back to that monetary system, right?
Yeah, and we have to put it in concrete ways for any of us to get it, because
Yeah.
I never knew this, like maybe 4 years ago, that we were taken over by, reptilians and grace. I didn't know that, but I know it now.
Once we know, we get our sovereignty back, we can create a healthier soul. And that's why I'm kind of going through all the down and dirty, scary stuff,
And
because
I'm
once
happy.
we know.
And I know, and I hope people are still hanging in there, because you got to get through this. This is called, even if you're hanging by your fingernails, hang in there and listen, because this is going to plant a seed, and you may have something just pop in front of you and you go, oh, whoa, that's what I heard. And now I understand what it means. And now I get it.
Yeah. And again, when we know, when we don't know, but we're still responsible for our soul, no matter what.
Okay.
We are the caretaker of our soul. But let's talk about the higher dimensions, the fifth dimension and above. These are known as the higher realms, the heavens, whatever it is. This is where the angels reside.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an important concept I really want to bring home, because the angels are our most underutilized resource. Their job is to serve humanity, but they can't serve humanity unless we ask.
Mm-hmm.
We have to ask. We have to be specific. And years ago, my in-laws died within 6 months of each other. And this is like right about when hell was breaking free in the house. Okay. My in-laws died, and within 6 months, and then 6 months later, my dad dies. My in-laws were elderly and ill. That made sense. When my dad died, it was like the sucker punch of a lifetime for me. It was awful. But my dad started living with us as a ghost.
Oh boy.
And I didn't know what the difference was. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what the difference was.
Right. You didn't know yet. Yep.
Yeah. And so one day, and we're always talking to my dad, my ghost dad in the house. And my husband's like, well, can I talk to my mom and dad? Right. I don't know. And then my then 6-year-old's like, Mom, Grandma and Grandpa are at the back patio, and they each have 2 angels with them. And they want to know if they can come in. I'm like, what? And at first, and I'm like, okay, so, and I asked that, I was using my daughter as a translator back then, because my abilities weren't what they are now. When I was her age, I was extremely psychic, but it was put away until the time was right.
Mm-hmm.
And the angels explained that they don't have permission to come in the house unless I give them permission. It's a spiritual law.
Sure.
So these beings and entities that come in, they need permission. And then my daughter's like, Mom, these angels have messages for you, not Dad, but you. And I'm like laughing about that, whatever, what, right?
Yeah, right.
And so the first message was, and these are important messages, and this is 15 to 20 years ago. Love never dies. Love transcends dimensions.
I love it. Oh.
So when a loved one dies, the love doesn't die. The energy of love doesn't die. It just shifts and changes in dimensions. Mm. Message number 2, and at the time I didn't get this. Mm-hmm. The world is getting darker every day, and we angels need your service. We need you and humanity to request angelic help. The angels need us.
Yes. Yes. I understand that now myself.
I do too. 15, 20 years ago, I'm like, what? The world's getting a darker place.
I knew about angels then, and I would ask them occasionally. I mean, a lot of times we're told to pray to the angels. It's all about prayer. But all you have to do is ask them.
Ask them. And then we've been programmed to believe a lot of things about angels. One is my problem isn't big enough or worthy of their help.
That's a classic. Yeah.
Surely the better things
to ask. I'm too humble to ask. Well, then you're going to get devoured by the dark.
Yeah. You know what? You're not too humble to ask. That's your ego, right? Kicking in. Just ask. If you want to go to the mall to go get a good sale on some jeans, tell the angels, I need to go to the mall and I want to get some really kick-ass jeans for a good price.
Really? I mean, that's
Leave me
common sense.
there.
Yes, I ask all the time for things like that now, you know, yeah.
Parking spots, whatever. If you
Yeah, get
have
me to this
children,
meeting on time, get me here, get me there, you know, make this happen, you know, make this
yeah.
happen for me, you know, or I'll ask, can, you know, give me the energy to make this, you know, really come through right and blah, 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 you know, like that.
Yeah, and be specific. If you have kids and your kids are dealing with night terrors, request 100 angels, 1,000 angels, whatever you want to come in and to remove everything that is not for your family's greater good and to
Yes.
protect. If
Mm.
you've got teenage drivers, pack their cars with angels every single time and say, I'm requesting this team of angels to be with my child in this inside the car and surrounding the car from the minute they leave the driveway to the minute they get home. Be
Now, that's
specific.
so interesting because when I first, well, I've been sober. This is my 31st year this month. On the 21st, sober 31 years. So, you know, it was in the family DNA that we all, you know, it's like the lineage there. But I was coming home from one of my meetings and I hit a patch of ice and I turned completely in a circle. And honestly, there was nobody around me. It was like a miracle. And I knew that I had my angels with me. They were there protecting me, even though I didn't ask them, but I had asked
Right.
for help because I was going to my meetings and I was doing different things to clear up my life and make it, you know, back to what I really wanted.
Yeah.
And so they were with me, even though.
And, you know, looking what you said about the family history, you change the future of your family history.
Absolutely.
You're cleaning up your spiritual DNA for the family history. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. The other message that they had given was that death is never permanent, but it's critical that all souls cross over and go home. And my little 6-year-old boomed and home really loud, like a man voice. I'm like, whoa, what? And here's the other critical piece. Humans are not to judge where a soul should go upon death. It's not my job to say where they go when I cross them over. I hand them off to the angels to the light side.
Okay.
It's not my job. In my house, there are many mansions. Jeffrey Epstein probably isn't going to go to the same place that you and I are going.
Right.
Okay, but he's still in the control of the light side.
Well, there is no hell. There really is no hell. It's
well,
just
it's the fourth dimension, right? It's
that's
the fourth
dimension. There you go.
It's the fourth dimension. And if we were to allow Jeffrey Epstein to keep reigning in the fourth dimension, he's going to grow his spiritual team there.
Oh. So
when we remove him, he can no longer affect the living or the dead from that point of view.
See, that's
so as awful as he has been, and that's, you know, a judgment call on my part, by removing him from the lower astral, putting him back in the hands of God, God is now in charge of that soul and not the underworld.
Okay. Yes.
And this is true for pedophiles. This is true for people who have dealt with sexual abuse and physical abuse. When we put them back in the hands of God, it's not like they're getting rewarded for bad behavior. We're stopping them from continuing bad behavior because the dark side will reincarnate us too. Somebody like Jeffrey Epstein was not heaven sent.
Not at all.
And so how do we stop the cycle?
There you go.
And when we stop that cycle, if I've got an uncle that, you know, raped or molested my sister or whatever, and he dies and we cross him over, we're stopping his karmic clock. We're stopping him from creating more heinous crimes in the underworld. We're also robbing the dark side of his soul energy so they can reincarnate him back. You know, these serial killers that are out shooting schools, not heaven sent. Cross them over so they stop the violence. This is important. It's a different way to think about things, but I firmly believe this.
Well, this is true. And you know, this is part of, you know, really, I mean, this, I don't know if this is called stepping into the unconditional love part of, okay, we don't want to feed them the dark because that's their food. If we feed them hate and anger, like you said, we're feeding them their energy and they're just going to come back and do it again.
And, you know, I can be angry at this uncle or whatever.
That's healthy. You've got to grieve it and feel
and
it.
that's fine. But making sure that my anger doesn't supersede the ability to make sure he goes back to God. I had a client who's had a brother who was 9 years older who raped and beat her entire childhood. And the mom was like, well, he's the boy. And the dad left the family. And it was just,
Mom just says he's the boy.
he's the boy. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy what I hear.
Where did she come from?
Yeah, I know, right? The father left the family, and it was just like one of those things. And the brother lost his job and lost his business, and he hung himself. And
Brother,
this
they did
person,
all the
this
harsh.
person could see her brother as a ghost.
Okay.
And she hired me because she was having all this neck pain. And I'm like, your neck pain isn't what you think it is. I said, you've got somebody here who died by suicide of hanging themselves. Oh, that's my brother. And I'm not crossing him over, blah, blah, blah. And he, and I understand where she's coming from. And I said, look, if you want your neck to heal, you need to cross him over. His energy is impacting you. Cross him over. We crossed him over. And within like 6 weeks, this disc didn't rupture, but it receded. So it was not a problem.
Wow.
So cross them over. And this goes for breast cancer and all kinds of cancers. Cross them over. I know we're kind of going a little bit long here, but the concept of breast cancer awareness in the month of October. First of all, October and March are considered dark forces months, where the dark forces have a little extra oomph. October is breast cancer awareness month. So we've got all these women doing these 3-day marches. What are they doing? They're putting themselves in resonance with cancer. They're thinking about it 24/7. They're surrounded by all these cancer survivors. They're surrounded by cancer's ghosts for 3 days.
Oh.
What does that do to your vibrational frequency?
Interesting.
What if instead we take the energy of a 3-day breast cancer walk and we cross those souls over? How does that change Breast Cancer Awareness Month? And this is true for any cancer. Because when somebody dies and they don't cross over, their energy impacts us all the time.
Sure.
And so I'm in resonance now with breast cancer. My sister had breast cancer and her ghost is in here. My odds of contracting breast cancer are raised, but maybe not the way we think they are. The medical world says, well, it's a hereditary thing. Maybe it's hereditary, but in a different way.
Yes.
It's a different way of thinking about it. So if you have somebody died by suicide, by cancer, whatever, cross them over. Use the Crossing Over Souls prayer. Get it from the download here or email me. I don't care. It's free to the world. And we have to connect to when we connect to the angels, we're connecting to the higher realms. They become a part of our spiritual team and they offer a spiritual service to have a healthy soul.
Yes. I totally forgot about the time, so I apologize. This has been such an incredible conversation. I just totally forgot. It's like I could talk to you forever, Laura.
I know. I do. If we have a moment, I want to talk about the importance of vetting your spiritual team, though.
Go right ahead.
Okay, because we're always saying, oh, well, there's my guide. How do you know that's your guide? Remember the reptilian story I told you? So pour salt on your guide, pour frankincense oil on your guide, vet them, test them. When I'm working with a client, I'll have like maybe 1,000 angels. I have them stand in military formation and rank and file so I can better see and sense them. And I'll pour something on them. I do different things because the element of surprise is always good for the dark side. So vet them. Never assume that your guide is who they say they are. And if you vet your guide, you test them, you pour salt on them, and they disappear or they shapeshift, don't think you're not good enough. Think, oh, I dodged a bullet.
Oh, priceless.
And your true guides are going to be thankful for that.
Yes. Thank you. That's priceless information, Laura. I'm telling you, that is incredible. And so I know you had some gifts for the group. I really wanted to, do you want to tell anything about it, or they can just look at it later? I know you have a special kit that
I'm doing a special for I forget what it is. Is it $97?
I think so. I'm not sure. We won't.
And it's a session where we can assess what's going on and clear as much as we can within that 30-45 minute period.
So you're offering sessions. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't like to do hard stops, but it's really important to know what's with us or what we can do better. or if it's spiritual guidance or something that you're trying to figure out, if it's crossing over somebody, we're running that special, and there's a special link for that. So please, I would love to meet you. I would love to assist people in every sense of the way. And just know that we're all here on our spiritual paths. Every path is different. We're doing the best we can. And it's time we focus in on our soul health, because it affects our whole embodiment, including it echoes out to family and friends.
It's so true, Laura. And you've really, impacted me with that information in such a way that I think everyone here is just been totally awakened to that idea. And so it's so powerful. And I know another thing you were giving as a gift was one of your kits. That was a special gift.
So what we'll do is anybody who signs up and watches this will get an email list going, and I will draw a name and I will send a clearing kit of the items that are tried and true.
Yeah, it'll help.
Things that work. It's a very substantial kit. It comes with my book that's signed, a journal, essential oil, resins, pure resins.
All the tools you need for
all the tools you need to clear your space.
Yes, it's so powerful. It's a beautiful kit. I have one, highly recommend it. If you don't get the free one, order one through Laura. I mean, she has them.
Yeah, and they're not on my website because
okay.
I keep them on. I can't keep up with the volume.
There you go. Okay.
So they're $111. They're packed full of stuff, but if somebody wants to email me, I can absolutely send one out to them.
Okay, so it's a special thing that Laura does. She does give that in her courses when you take self-defense, so I know that. And but if you really want the kit, get one, and then it'll help you to start your safety, your soul health. It's going to get you on that road to soul health as you need. So I want to thank you, Laura, so much for your incredible courage and your strength that you continue to show us. I mean, you've taken on the full mantle of the soul saving Jedi. That's what I'm calling you. The soul saving
Thank you.
Jedi. And it's so true. And I know, because I work with you, I know the level of work that you do is absolutely beyond anybody's I've ever been around. The persistence and the wisdom that you've gained with everything you've experienced, and then you share it with us as we create this new reality, is going to help us all rise in that divine human rising. I mean, it's priceless. So I'm calling you the super spiritual soldier, transforming our planet. You got a few names there now, and reflecting to us all what we can be. And I'm going to thank the audience that are listening as well, because we love to hear from you. Please comment, send us an email, send it to me, send it to Laura. We'd love to share and hear your insights. And what have you gotten from this? Because really, Laura shared a lot of incredible information today. And she's the person to work for. If you have if you have any questions and you don't know what's going on in your life, talk to Laura. She's amazing. And Laura, again, you're bringing so much to us, and I thank you so much. And the divine human is rising, and we hold unlimited potential and gifts as we create our new earth realities. Thank you again for your courage, Laura, and for stepping into owning your divine light. And as we raise our hearts, our frequency knows that we are nourished with the love of the universe. So I am Yarra Atlantica Miller, also known as Janet, and I will see you all on the next episode.
Thank you so much.